Hello and welcome to Chapter 19. We're going to look at a very small section of Chapter 19, and it has to do with quality management systems. The entire chapter is about cost management systems, talking about activity-based, ABC system, just-in-time, and quality management systems. The quality management systems is something you as a business leader, you're going to encounter no matter what environment it is, whether it's working for a CPA firm, working in manufacturing, in sales, in marketing, whatever that might be, you're going to be concerned about the quality that your organization is putting out. Healthcare is another one, higher education. So let me share some of the text there because it's not in your, if you've got a hardback textbook from ETSU, it's not in there. I added this after I came to ETSU 6 years ago. But it is in your e-text. So let me share that part in your e-text here before we move on into the homework. So what you see there in the e-text, we're on page 1054, Quality Management Systems. How do you manage your quality? Anytime you talk about quality, there are four key areas when you're talking about cost. This is very relevant. Worked in this most of my career. Four types of costs, and this is cost that you're spending as a company. It's going to be expense. This is cost that you're incurring in order to make your processes better, your processes that make your product or service better. First one is prevention, to avoid poor quality. Prevention. There's an old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's an old saying, but there's a lot of truth to that. And so whatever we spend up front to make our processes better, then that's money well spent. If you look here on the left, costs incurred to avoid poor quality goods and services, that's going to be things like training. We've all had jobs that we wish we'd had more training, right? That's probably the key part of that. What's appraisal cost? It used to be called inspection, but you don't hear that term anymore, like quality control or inspection. So here it's talking about appraisal to detect poor quality. Maybe that's detection on your docks of material coming in, that you're checking that material before it even gets to your processes. I mean, that's money well spent. Then we have what's called internal failure and external failure. Sounds like a confusing or a scary term, but it's not. And those are real terms used in business. Internal failure is when you've made the product and the cost to correct those failures and the write down. A common term is scrap, S-E-R-A-P, scrap. What are your scrap costs? And sometimes the scrap can be remelted, like, I don't know, some type of metal or plastic. But at the same time, you put labor and overhead into that. So as at each successive part of the process, you've added more and more cost to it. So the further along it gets, the more expensive it gets to become internal failure. So then what's the final one? Well, number 4 is external failure. That's when it leaves your building and it's out there and it becomes a product that is warranty, very expensive to bring that back. Okay, sorry about that. Then if we look at, maybe I stopped sharing that screen. I did. Let me go back here. The next page, let's look at what some of the examples are. You can see there at the bottom talking about having your teeth cleaned. That's prevention, right? To prevent decay. All right, the next page. Up at the top, 4 types of quality costs: prevention, avoid training. They give you examples for each of those. This is important because when you look at these exercises, it's going to ask you what category do each of these types of costs, where would they show up? And external failure is very expensive. So when you start talking about what's the most expensive, it's really a, let me draw a little chart here. What you see here on my chart is cost on the x-axis. So you can see prevention, you spend probably very little money in compared to internal and external failure. Appraisal is more, and as you go through your process, the more you get out toward that external failure, the more expensive it becomes. Because once you get out past internal failure, I mean, you're outside the bounds of your facility. And once you get outside of there, what are all the costs associated with that? Well, what about an unhappy customer there? Warranty costs. What if you have to send people to your customer site? We had to do that a lot at Exide. When batteries would show up at a Toyota plant, batteries going into Camrys, and there was an issue, we would actually have to send people up there to look at the batteries, to see what we had to do to fix those and send more. Very expensive. And what if you have a liability problem? What if it was, I mean, not in the case of batteries, but you recall the various automotive issues in the past, Takata airbags that were going off and killing people, and the ignition switch that General Motors had an issue with. I had a car that had one of those, that the switch would turn off while somebody rolling down the interstate at 70 miles an hour and people were killed. There was a liability associated with that poor quality. So very important. Go back and share that screen again. They give some examples here, and you can read this on your own. I don't think I need to belabor the point, but you have to put these into the categories. And we'll see that as we look at the homework. So take the time and read these few pages, 3 or 4 pages in here. There it is, undertake the quality improvement program. Managers, supervisors, all need to understand what goes on with your cost of quality and your total quality management systems. The prevention, appraisal, internal failure, external failure. You're spending these dollars up here at the top, right, in order to make sure you don't have internal and external failure costs. But look at the cost there. Of course, they're showing they're spending $850,000 up front. Well, the thinking is if I spend more up front, I'm going to have less appraisal, less internal failure, and less external failure. But the external failure is still very high, isn't it? All right, so let's get to the homework. Wherever it is. Almost there. Chapter 19, getting down close to the bottom. So only one assignment there. All right, so now maybe you can see that. Here's the first exercise. It's only 5. They just want you to designate which of the 4 categories do each of these types of costs fall into. Inspection of final products, meaning you've got indirect labor, right? Quality assurance, inspection, that's appraisal. It's not prevention. You've already made it, so you're checking what's been made. Sales returns of defective products, external. Employee training, right? Good training up front, prevention. Reworking, internal failure, hasn't left your building. Working with suppliers to ensure delivery of high quality raw materials, prevention. Cost, and of course, there's some inspection associated with that as well. Inspection being appraisal once it comes to your docks. We always make sure we check a certain alloy of lead every day that came into our docks. Cost of warranty repairs, right? External, if it's warranty, it's gone outside your building. It's not just about correcting the product. It could be liability problems. It could be lost customers. And product testing, appraisal. All right, number 2, loss of future sales is external failure. Spending on testing a product before shipment, appraisal. All right, so now we got actual exercise here. And we've got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different costs. So it's the first one, costs incurred by Dyer to repair defective products, $14,000. So where does that $14,000 show up relative to these 4 categories? Well, that's external failure. Again, prevention, appraisal, internal, external. Lost profits from sales due to reputation for less than perfect products. That's external failure, right? Cost is inspecting components. Inspecting, it's appraisal. Redesigning, sounds like prevention, doesn't it? $60,000. Cost of reworking defective. Reworking, that's internal failure. Cost of electronic components returned by customers, that's external. So you can add up all your costs there and see your cost, your total cost of quality is what this is. Total cost of quality. Prevention plus appraisal plus internal failure plus external failure. Finally, number 5, classify each of these categories as one of these. You can see that there. So let's look at the numbers. What about the new quality program? Should we do this or not? Cost of implementing. So there we got strength testing, 69,000, training employees and TQM, total quality management, 30, training suppliers, right? Identifying suppliers who commit to on-time delivery of perfect quality materials, 56. So there's your cost. What else is up here? The cost avoidance. So that's how much we're going to avoid by implementing this particular spending program. So there's our spending, right, that we want to do. And that's what we're going to save. So what does that look like? Right? Training, identifying these suppliers. You're going to commit to on-time delivery. It's going to cost you more. It's not always best to get the low-cost producer as your supplier. You want to get someone to total quality management, someone who is you view as being a stakeholder in your company. So they're going to commit to on-time delivery and perfect quality. Of course, that's a misnomer. There is no such thing as perfect quality, but high quality. Strength testing. So the total cost to undertake this TQM program is $189,000. So what are we going to save? And either save or avoid. Big difference between cost reduction and cost avoidance. So here you're going to avoid these costs. So if we're going to spend $189,000 and we're going to avoid $233,000, then that says our cost savings from spending these dollars up here is $44,000. I like the payback we learned in chapter 26. Remember that? All right. And there's the answer. They should implement the new quality program, $44,000 less than the cost. So that is chapter 19. So continue on and we'll look at the next chapter in a future video.